Society?
Strangers. Strangers in society.
Strangers on the internet?
The secret.
Strangers. Society. Oh, welcome, stranger. Secret to society. Strangers. Society. Welcome to the secret society.
Strangers?
If you are here, welcome to the Secret Society of Strangers podcast. Lee, I'm here with Josh and Jen.
What it do from the South?
And always in the South. Hi.
Our
Yeah, she's like,
permanent
nothing
southern
special.
resident.
Well, we're back for another paranormal episode, so I'm excited to get into that, as I'm sure most of you are.
Man, yeah, it's gonna be great. This one's a little bit different than our usual hauntings. It's definitely different than the pickling.
Or
this
Plan P.
Or
Plan
Plan
P.
P. Hey man, get you some Plan P if you don't want no poltergeists or ghosts in your house.
Yes.
I got it. That's got to be merch.
Yeah,
Gotta make
that's
that
got to be our
merch.
next shirt, Plan P.
It's like a pregnant ghost, but it's got a bump.
A little ghost bump.
Should have used Plan P.
Oh man! And then instead of a ghost hand, it's a human hand on the ghost.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be great.
Feel an idea
Oh,
coming.
but yeah,
all
these
What do
are
you got for us, Josh?
paranormal war stories told from different diaries and different accounts from soldiers that were actually in these wars. Yeah. So you guys ready to get
Right.
spooky?
Before we start, as always, you guys know the deal. Like, subscribe, share. If you guys want to be on the show, you can email us at
SSOSpodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to hit that little bell, get your little buzz, and know that when we're posting things.
All right, Josh, let's do this.
All right. So let's set the scene here, While most people's experience with death may be going to like the funeral of a loved one or a family member or a dog or a pet or whatever, but for most of these soldiers who fought and bled on the front lines during the Great War, death was a daily routine for these people. Like, it's just unfathomable the amount of like death that was around during like any great conflict or any wartime anyway. It's just absolutely insane. And so like right under their feet, the earth itself was just soaked in so much blood of like all these soldiers and everything. And think about this. So like whenever like artillery or like any other like mortars or anything hit the ground, all these mangled bodies and body parts that were just scattered along the battlefield were just like being constantly buried and unburied. So think about like a big tractor just tilling like a field, but it's just body parts.
And we're talking mostly World War I right now.
Yeah, right now, World War One.
Right.
And something I always think about with warfare is the further back you go, the closer to the actual death you get. So like in the meaning of like prehistoric fights, rocks and sticks, you have to be within a couple feet.
Right.
And then you had muskets and you're across a field but slowly walking towards each other. You had trench warfare in World War II where
World War
One, sorry. And like you were saying, yeah, you're just watching, you're looking over at ground level at bodies just in front of you. Like that has got to be psychologically one of the most like damaging things to do to someone.
Oh yeah, I mean like now that we know like what PTSD is, it's not like Gulf War syndrome and shit like that anymore. Like,
Shell shock.
Could you imagine like the PTSD these guys went through and stuff like that? Like they just came back from the war and everybody thought they were just fucking crazy.
There's video of people from World War One and I believe like the Civil War, like years after, and all they do is show them like a piece of their uniform or a hat, and like these guys lose it. Like they're on the floor, just like get it away from me.
Yeah, or even like a sight, a sound, or a smell just like sends you back over there. I know it does that for me too, and it's just like, oh, this is weird. Like,
Right.
personal story. Like there was one time I was working as a rebar manufacturer, so I was just throwing different size rebars on this pneumatic press machine
Mm.
on the shear line, and I had a jug of water sitting, beside me because it was hot as shit, and you're just throwing steel all day. And one of like the edges of the rebar cut the water jug, and it just started like watering on me. And for a split second, I thought I was overseas again, and I was just like so scared to look down because all I felt was cold liquid run down me.
Oh.
Oh, it was
It's
terrifying.
crazy what the mind does and like
Mhm.
what it holds
Mhm.
on to protect and like all
Like I
that.
instantly just grabbed my stomach and was like, "Don't look down. Don't look down. You're fine. It's okay."
Right.
But
And
yeah,
then
I
with
mean,
the
I could.
addition of poisonous gas in World War One, just adds a whole other level
Oh God,
of
yeah,
Yeah,
insanity.
that's how we
Yeah.
got Hitler. Mustard gas. He
yeah,
survived,
Mhm.
and then he was like, "Ah, I'm chosen." I just watched a
yeah.
Hitler thing yesterday.
And not to even get even more gross, but like the weaponry then, and the further back you go, the wounds were just less lethal but more damaging.
Well, yeah,
Right.
like even musket shot. You get shot by a musket, and then boom, that's instant lead poisoning.
Yeah.
Yeah, or and like the tissue and bone damage that does isn't necessarily
Mhm.
lethal.
Mhm.
Like you're probably more mangled before you die, and then you're getting a bayonet through your throat as they walk through the field and pick you off.
Mhm.
I'm gonna pause right now.
Disclaimer.
Content warning. It's a little late.
Never.
Yeah, we're already in it, man. But if this is not
We're in
gonna,
the
I don't think we're gonna
trenches.
find it to be any nicer. So this is your exit if we haven't already sent you to the hills.
But yeah, man, could you just think of like, say if like all three of us were just in a trench or something, and you're just like, oh fuck, look at all this artillery, and I think that's a piece of bill that went flying through the air, and maybe that's like
Ugh.
Sam over there or something. I don't know. Like it would just crush me and like just
Absolutely.
demoralize you. And then so like undoubtedly these men literally stared death in the face, like in the eyes. And by that I mean they were literally looking on the faces of their lifeless comrades from the trench.
Mhm.
Like that would mess me up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And then like your friends, you have to make that decision. Like I either die here with him or I move. Like ugh.
and
Mm.
I'm sorry, but I'm gonna move.
Right.
Yeah, you're okay.
I'll take something back for your family, but I'm gonna move so I can do that. But yeah, so like,
Definitely sets
however,
the scene for some like
oh
extra weird, creepy shit happening.
yeah, I can't wait to get into these stories. But this is still setting the scene. We're not even through setting the
I
scene
feel like
yet.
I'm knee deep in body parts right now.
Ooh,
Yeah.
man, could you imagine trench foot too? Like your bottom of your
Exactly.
feet just sliding off because like dirty socks, wet, harsh conditions. You're not getting supplies because you're just
Mhm.
literally in no man's land.
The rats.
Yeah, and as the winter like crept in and stuff.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Just rewatched Band of Brothers and like the part where they're like,
Ooh.
I think it's in Bastogne or something, where they're just like in the forest and it's just all bad,
Mhm.
frozen
Yeah.
and everything. Oh man, those guys
Great
were
movie.
straight badasses.
Great show.
But yeah, so what we have are the diary entries of these men seem to suggest that death was not only showed itself to them in the physical sense, but it also in the spiritual sense as well. So, as strange and out there as it is, these are cases where something not of this earth interacted, changed their fates, guided these soldiers away from, would have been certain death, or in some cases, guided them to certain death. The Grim Reaper was everywhere, working overtime. Yeah. So here's the first story. And this one's called Ghosts Have Warm Hands, which is already terrifying because we know that shit's not real.
Yeah.
Not true.
We've dealt with ghost arms and hands before. They're
Yeah.
not warm.
Mm-mm.
No, not
This
normally.
is not another case of Plan P.
Mm.
This is not another case of Plan P. I will tell you that.
I feel like this is worse.
I know it's so much worse. So let's get into it. So this first case comes from the memoirs of a Canadian soldier named Will R. Bird. And this man who survived the war, he had his story later discovered by a Canadian historian named Tim Cook. I guess he's Dr. Tim Cook. He's a pretty famous historian up in Canada, eh? So Cook said that this is one of the most vivid and supernatural accounts he has ever came across in his 20 years of studying like these wartime diaries, letters and memoirs from frontline soldiers during this Great War. And this is how the story goes. After a shift spent digging trenches and placing barbed wire near the front lines of Vimy, France in 1917, soldier Will R. Bird needed sleep. He was tired. It sucks being out there. It was well past midnight when he and 2 other soldiers called it a night in a bivouac dug in an embankment. And it's like a bivouac, you've got your trench, and it's kind of like a little like room type thing, like a little cul-de-sac, if you will. So it's just like a little dirt hut inside of the trench. So essentially you're already in your grave, which is terrifying in its own sense.
You have to put it like that.
Yeah, no, like that's like I hated digging foxholes because like that's literally like your grave. You get like shelled by mortar and artillery, it's game over. So he was, the ground sheet was like a sheet was fastened to like the entryway in place to keep the soldiers like sort of warm, but obviously we know that like a sheet's not going to keep the wind and coldness out. So hours later, the sheet broke free and touched the face of, Mr. Bird here, and it woke him up, as anything would. I'm sure like the slightest sound of like a piece of hay dropping would probably wake you up because your nerves are so on edge.
Wouldn't be sleeping really. I'd be one eye open the whole night anyway.
Oh yeah. So hours later, the sheet broke free and touched his face, and then a warm hand grabbed one of Bird's hands, and then the other one. So it was like something grabbed onto both of his hands, like, "Hey, come on, you got to get up for like guard duty or go on patrol or something like that." And this is what Bird said. "I had a look at my visitor," Bird wrote in his 1968 book, Ghosts Have Warm Hands, because he wrote a book about this strange encounter. The guy didn't write a book about the war or his experiences. He wrote about this one strange encounter during all of this conflict. So this was important.
Wow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so in an instant, I was out of the bivvy, so surprised I could not speak. I was face to face with my brother Steve, who had been killed in 1915. Steve told Will to gather his equipment and follow him. They walked through trenches and past makeshift shelters inhabited by men from Will's platoon. But when the gear on his shoulder fell off, he became separated from his brother, who had entered a passageway. By the time Will made it into the passageway where his brother had turned into, he had 2 options, go left or go right. He went right, and his brother was nowhere to be found. Will came back and went left, but again, unsuccessful. So he was just wandering around this maze of trenches, looking for his brother, and I'm sure he's freaked out because he knew his brother died in 1915, like at the beginning of the war, which was crazy.
And this is the middle of the night.
Yeah, terrifying. But like I said, his brother was nowhere to be found. And then Will came back and went left, but again was unsuccessful. So he was very tired, exhausted, and excited, and sweating because he's just like, what's happening? I'm wide awake, but I'm also exhausted. I just saw my brother. Where the fuck is he? And now he's gone. And now I'm just wandering around these trenches. So Will dozed off, and as he leaned up against a wall that early morning, soon after that, Will was awoken by a soldier shaking him and asked why he was out there. He's like, dude, like, why are you just out here in the open? Why are you not in?
So he just waited.
Yeah, he just like
in
literally
that outcrow, like in the hallways, and just see if he could see his brother again, and fell asleep.
Pretty much, because he was just so exhausted, and like I couldn't even imagine like the mental state. Like you're on high alert, you see your dead brother, so you're like frantically looking for him, like what's happening, and then so you're just gonna like, you know what? I'm just gonna post up here and see if he comes back, and then he fell asleep, I guess.
Yeah.
So they asked him why he was out there, and this is what Will said. They're digging around that this is what the soldier said, my bad. They're digging around that bivvy you were in, the soldier said. All they found is Jim's helmet and one of Bob's legs. A German shell had landed a direct hit where Will was supposed to have spent the night. And then he told this miraculous tale of survival to his other members of the platoon, and they all just chalk it up as like, oh, well, you just must have sleepwalked, or you got very, very lucky. Nobody really like took him seriously that like his dead brother saved his life.
Wow.
Well, and they're all in shock too. Like they're not ready to hear like shit that can explain anything outside of the realm of like what they're used to anyway.
Yeah, I mean gotten used to just being here one minute and gone the next. I mean,
Mhm.
that
That is the
nobody.
thing I will say is like when you're at least this is how I found it. When I was deployed, when I first got over there and halfway through, and I guess the whole time you could say, like, nothing over here in the States mattered. Like, yeah, my family, my friends, and stuff like that, I held them close to me and stuff like that. But like bills, like my house, car, dogs, everything like that, none of that mattered. And while I was over there, it was all like, I'm going to survive and I'm going to come back. And then that's
Right.
all you're thinking about. You're just hyper focused on survival. And it definitely messes with your brain.
Yeah. Ugh. But to think like he is trying to sit there and be like, guys, you don't understand. I saw something last night. While
Mhm.
his platoon's like, hey, you don't understand. The body parts of your friends are in that bunker right now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
the two are like both equally in shock, trying to convey each other's shock to each other.
It's like they're trauma dumping on each other.
Yeah,
Right,
and neither
yeah.
one is able to take anything else in except what they know right now.
Yeah.
What does that gotta feel like?
I couldn't even imagine. I couldn't even begin to describe how that would feel like. Like, oh man, like I didn't lose any friends, which thank Sky Daddy. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine. Like, because like
Oh,
on
that
one hand you've got
survivor's
like
guilt.
survive for sure, and then like you've got like on one hand Will like probably having an existential mental breakdown crisis because he's like, well,
Mhm.
where I was sleeping literally a couple of hours before just got blown to fuck. But also, my dead brother literally saved my life.
Right.
Mhm. I think that's where, like, yeah, you have like I would be stuck there. I would be
Mhm.
stuck there for a long time. Like, if I made it out of the war, like, again, he wrote the book about it. I totally get it. Like, if that's what he experienced, how, like, what, what's your explanation?
There is
Is
none.
it
Exactly.
purely that, like,
Mhm.
you were just straight up saved by your brother's ghost? Was it some kind of just weird dream? Like,
Or is it just like your internal basic instincts taking over and just like, like
mhm.
when you walk somewhere and you just have like a weird feeling like I have no reason to be here or like something just feels off and then you just
Right.
leave and then something happens. But
The
like
Mhm.
I've never heard of
intuition, yeah.
anybody like being asleep and then just woken up and I'm like, you know what? I gotta go.
Mhm.
Mm. I've heard plenty of stories where like loved ones come to you to like take you out of a place where you're going to
Yeah.
be in danger. Um, I guess one of my questions would be like, what do we think that is? Is it truly the person's loved one? Like, was it really his brother, or is that like
Or is your
a hu-
subconscious making up something so like some sort of
yeah?
safety mechanism that
Hmm.
So that you'll
you're
believe
like,
it.
oh
Or
yeah.
even if it's
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
if it is some sort of divine intervention, if it's just some random spirit, you may not actually believe to follow it or do
Hmm.
whatever it says, as opposed to your granny saying, "You're in danger, let's go," or whatever. Your
Yeah.
mind can make more sense of that if you can in the
Hmm.
situation. I don't know. Either way.
Well, and in
Yeah.
his case, it's almost like his curiosity, not even the fact that he got to communicate with his brother. It was
Right.
just the fact that he was so curious and confused about why his brother was there. It was enough to
Mhm.
get him out of his position
Mhm.
into
Yeah.
safety.
Literally put his all of his gear and everything on and then just
Yeah.
go
Hmm.
out into the trenches.
I'm
Like,
so again, these stories are cool because like it fascinates me. Like, what if we pause and think about what's that like from the other side? If it is like a higher being or a guardian angel, like is that that's like their moment. That's like, oh shit,
mhm,
Mhm.
like I gotta use all my energy right now to convince this dude to get
Yeah.
the fuck out of this hole because
he's
yeah,
gonna die.
Yeah.
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 The whole time I was researching this story, it just reminded me of when I had my ghost encounter with my roommate in my basement, and I just
Mm.
shut the door in his face. Oh, now it had me
That's
thinking. I was
fair.
like, if this happened, and if I was Will, would I have left, or would I have been like, okay, this is weird. I'm just gonna go back to bed now.
Yeah, right. Like I'm dreaming.
Yeah. Ugh.
Ugh.
So what do we think about
Right.
this?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's the human body, as we know, and like our consciousness, our mind, we talk about it all the time, is so powerful. Like are you just tapped into like an astral realm where you're like outside of your body and like you can see the fucking mortar shell coming, or is it his actual brother?
Oh
Like,
man, we should ask our astral
What-
projection friends about that.
Yeah. Well, you
Yeah.
have to wonder too if he kind of had a moment of wondering if his brother had really even died, because some false identifications and things like that are just, wasn't unheard of. And, getting messages back and forth. You just have to wonder if he kind of,
hmm
had a moment of like,
Yeah.
bud.
oh shit, you're alive. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's get out
But
of
the
here. We can
crazy
go
thing
home.
about this was like while I was researching, and I should have added it to the notes, was like, so Will was disqualified from military service for like 3 consecutive tries. And his brother, because he had like asthma and then something else, like something like really small that they would just be like, yeah, no, we'll just give you a waiver and ship you off to somewhere for now.
flat-footed or some shit. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so like his brother was, overseas and everything like that. Then his brother died. And then Will mysteriously somehow was able to enlist.
Oh,
So that was also weird. Yeah.
Weird. Yeah, like,
Adds to the spooky cake.
Yeah.
It adds to that like pre-planned like order of things needed to go a certain way for things to happen.
Right.
Oh, would that be
'Cause-
like Raw?
Yeah, well, so that's why fuck you. That's why I went there with the higher self thing, because if my higher self had to convince me, like it'd have to use like
A family member,
my
dead
my
family member.
daughter or my wife. Like, yeah, like it wouldn't even be able to use my like parents. Like,
Yeah.
no. Yeah, like it'd have to be like someone that close, and I feel like a lot of times siblings, especially like brothers,
Mhm.
you're not
Especially
gonna
back
get
then, because
closer
like
than that.
family was so much closer than it is like nowadays.
Right.
I don't know, man.
You have to wonder why not keep him out of it in the first place? Like, I wonder what
Yeah, I thought about that too, and I'm wondering if like the
Got to
brothers'
balance the cosmic
convictions.
scale.
Well, I wonder
Right.
if like just the brothers' convictions in death are still so adamantly against the like other side in the war that they were like,
Mhm.
you know what, like if I can't fight, like I'm gonna send my brother now to fight the good cause.
Yeah, he's gonna get in there and fight the good fight. Yeah, because everybody was like way more patriotic back then. Also,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And when we're talking like global conflict, it's hard not to like take a side.
well, yeah, I mean, except for in
Well,
the
and they
Second World
also-
War,
Yeah.
it was pretty blatantly clear.
Well, I mean,
who the
there were
bad
plenty
guy
of people
was.
that took the other side.
Yeah,
But
There were people that made that decision.
they
truth.
also, a lot like the Civil War, they also with this one did not expect it to turn into what it turned into. It wasn't supposed to be this long drawn out thing. So yeah, it was kind of easy to, but then
Mhm.
there you go.
If you're listening, let us know what you think.
Yeah, hit
We're
us up
always
in the
up to
comments. What do you
suggestions.
thought about all this? So you guys want to skip ahead into history to World War II and get led to certain death?
Okay. Opposite of being saved.
Yeah.
Two
Why
sides
not?
of the same coin.
That-
same, but different.
In a way, that was like a kind of a feel-good story. Now
Yeah.
a
this
good
one is-
palate cleanser. And now
Oh,
we're gonna go
man.
right into it.
I had to like stop a couple of times when I was like researching this one. I was like, there's no way. This is absolutely insane. Hits bowl 3 times. So this one is called The Lady in Blue, and this is in World War II. So while most of these strange ghostly encounters were seen as good omens by frontline soldiers, there were select few stories, like we said at the beginning of this, that would suggest otherwise. So rather than guide men away from danger, like Will's brother did in our previous story, some spectral sightings bear a darker, more ominous aura, like leading men to certain death. So the story goes like this. The thin British line had been battered for the better part of the morning, though they had managed to take the town that they were fighting over a few hours earlier. I couldn't find like what specific town or whatever they were trying to fight over, but it was in World War II time. So their heavy casualties in doing so meant that there was little more the remaining troops could do but dig in and hold out against, all the inevitable German counterattacks. So you're already you've taken this town, but you're just still just getting hammered by heavy artillery and shit.
Yeah.
And you have no manpower.
Just because you're in the town doesn't mean that
you
like
win.
your enemy's not on the outside just lobbing mortars into
Mhm.
every building they can see.
Oh yeah, and the second that they see a single thing move, it's just snipers and
Yeah, that was what
mortar
was,
and
I think,
artillery.
one of the, personally to me, like one of the cooler things about World War II is like how good the snipers had gotten.
Yeah, because you don't
And,
have all
like-
these crazy scopes and rangefinders
Yep.
and
No,
spotters. And
Yeah, and these guys are from like a hole in a wall. It's like the
Yeah,
size
just
of like
so
a
small.
playing card,
Literally.
like hitting someone like 200-300 yards away and just
hmm
nothing left. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy when you hear stories about snipers like murking somebody from like 1.5 miles away.
Yeah, there was that one in Afghanistan. It was like super duper far. I'm not even gonna say the length because I don't want to be really wrong. But it was one of those like he's on a rooftop and he's got like a little hole and
Mhm.
he's watching like a convoy come down and he hits the driver of the car like from super far away because they were worried about obviously like car bombs and stuff.
Mhm.
But
So, back to this terrifying ghost story. So they, the thinly strung out amongst the ruins of the town, the British fought stubbornly, as we know British people are pretty stubborn, I feel like. So fending off the enemy despite their exhaustion, so that's how stubborn these people were. They're like, I don't care how tired I am, I'm going to keep pushing. Because if you stop pushing, you die. Which is a pretty good self-motivator, in my opinion.
It is.
So, through the haze and smoke caused by the nonstop fighting and shelling and everything like that, 2 British soldiers found themselves witnessing a distressing and eerie sight. Something seeming to literally appear from nowhere, the unknown woman didn't react to the beckoning soldiers. Like, this lady apparently just appeared in the middle of this courtyard or square where, like, fire was happening. And these 2 British soldiers were like, what are you doing? Get out of there.
like,
Get down.
go
Come over
yeah.
here.
cover.
But like she wasn't,
Oh.
she was just standing there like da-da-da-da-da, but like unfazed by everything.
So think about that like as like a movie and you're the viewer, so we're the viewer. We know she's not really there. Like your anxiety for those soldiers now is through the roof because you're like,
Oh,
oh my
God,
god,
yeah.
don't fucking worry about it. It's not real.
yeah,
Ooh.
Right.
but they don't know it's not real. So
Yeah,
like
I
check
know.
this out. She simply just stood there and just stoic, like straight-faced, unfazed by the battle going on around her, bullets whizzing past her, everything like that. And her eyes are just permanently fixated on these 2 British soldiers, just standing there,
Ugh.
straight-faced,
Oh, I don't like that.
dead-eyed, looking at you. I don't like that either. So this woman's appearance was stark contrast to the town's drab devastation. Like everything's gray and smoky and everything. And this lady's vibrant blue dress was just a big pop of color. Think of like a black and white picture where it's just like one little part of its color, like those color
Was it
pop
blue
picture.
or was it gold?
Oh
Was
man,
it blue or gold?
We're not reigniting
man.
that debate.
I've been seeing that on my Reddit, and I'm just like, stop, leave this back in the past where it should have stayed.
Yes. Yes.
So she was wearing a distinct, vibrant blue skirt, like I said, and a bonnet. She was an older gal, her face appearing weathered, so she kind of seemed like she was older, or you know how like I watched Beetlejuice the other day, so like when they're like coming back to life and then they start weathering, that's what I pictured.
Start to shrivel.
Yeah, so her eyes looked tired and sunken in as well. And so these men were rightfully so confused and very rattled. And so were the Germans, because they saw this too. But like they just saw the back of her because she wasn't looking at them.
Really?
And so, yeah, so the Germans saw it and they got rattled and stopped firing. Like they just, it was a big ceasefire. Like they're like, what is happening? Which is really weird because I would have assumed the Germans would have just been like, yo, Swiss cheese this lady, fuck it. So soon another British soldier had joined his comrades that are like just looking on this ghostly lady. He came to give him some ammo and some supplies and stuff. The other 2 told the new guy that what was going on and to look and see what's happening. So the new soldier looked out at the woman looming in the battle haze. His comrades noticed a drastic change in his demeanor. So this guy, these are battle-hardened people. Like, they've seen some shit. And this guy peers out into this square, and then he just turns whiter than a sheet of paper and just starts pouring cold sweat and just starts freaking out. His face grew pale, his eyes widened with fright and confusion. Trembling, the young soldier began to stand up and walk out into the open.
Oh no.
Ignoring the shouts and protests of his fellow soldiers, the woman's cold, unyielding stare followed the soldier. So, like, as this guy's walking, she's just staring and turning and looking and just following. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Now facing her on open, the guy was just facing her face to face in the middle of the square. The young man was unreachable while he was in this trance-like state, so he removed his helmet and uttered what would be his final haunting words. And this is what he said: "That's my mother. I think she's come for me." And as soon as the soldier said those words, an artillery shell blasted him, literally right where he was standing.
What?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. We're not done. We're not done.
oh, really? Oh, jeez.
So through the smoke and ash, the two soldiers happened upon the remains of their comrade, who mercifully was quickly killed by the blast. Like, it literally landed on him and exploded. So
Okay.
he was just gone. There was nothing of their friend. Wow. The woman in the blue skirt, however, disappeared, nowhere to be found, simply carried away by the looming haze of the battlefield.
Shit.
The thing that, dropped my stomach to my ass was, that's my mom.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
she's here for. I think she's here for me.
So my question is, do we know if that soldier's mom looked like that? Do we have a description of his mom potentially?
I couldn't find one, but the only thing that I could find in my research was that the soldier's mother did die 3 years before this battle took place. So who knows? But this,
No.
instead of saving somebody's life, this ghost literally put somebody in harm's way. Or this entity that was, or maybe it was a trickster entity, and it took the guise of this soldier's mother and came to get him.
That's what I was thinking at first.
But why him? Out of all the millions that are,
Maybe it was just time for his ticket to be punched.
But that's such a dramatic way to do it.
Man, but here we are talking about it years later.
Yeah, I like better the thought that, maybe his mother was coming for him to just get him a quick and out of this.
Yeah,
maybe
save
saving him from a
something
worse
worse.
fate. Yeah, down the road, or maybe he wasn't coping well at all. Not that you could cope well during World War II, but maybe he was just really not in a good place,
Right.
and it just was bringing him home. I don't know. That makes me happier than a weird, spooky entity mimicking his mom.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, either way, he got taken home all right.
I got one more theory for you to get super fucking conspiracy theory. Jeez.
All right, let me put my tinfoil hat on.
The Germans
it was some
invented
kind of-
holograms.
German mind control.
Instead of regular artillery shells and it's just smoke and debris, it's actually some sort of new chemical warfare to make you hallucinate.
Yeah, what if they were able to do espionage, collect information on the individual soldiers, and
Imagine how
then
many spies
got
you
a
would
picture
need.
of this dude's mom and was like, "Oh, I'm just going to project this onto the field and see what happens."
Oh,
So he
it's
would
all
have to
dry
be-
ice.
A super important person, I would think, in the British military.
Yeah, could you imagine how many spies it would take to sit there and
to do all of
background check
that?
every soldier in
Who knows?
the
Maybe
American
he had
army.
maybe he was just, his family was in the military enough that he had enough of a name in the military to be followed as a platoon person. He'd be like, all right, Williams is in that platoon, and they just
Wow.
randomly, it could be totally random. They're just fishing phone lines. And
Yeah.
oh, we found one. His mom's dead. Let's now pinpoint him. They just look him up. He's from fucking Brooklyn, and they go to
Wow.
Brooklyn and oh, we got some
His-
pictures.
You've got the name brand tinfoil hat right now, the
Mhm.
Reynolds wrap,
Yeah.
this strong.
Yeah, man.
Are you a spokesperson for Reynolds Wrap?
Because when we
Please
study
sponsor us, Reynolds Wrap. I need more
and we
tinfoil for
think
my
about
hats.
the past and what the militaries of the world have done, is that
especially in World War II.
is that
all
beyond
the
them?
crazy experiments that were going on, all the crazy things that we've seen.
they were trying everything?
Oh, crap.
That is true.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like not even like
Everything.
I didn't even bring up any of the cases of like the Foo Fighters and stuff like that, like the
Oh
crazy
yeah.
UFOs or the Bell and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Or think about like Nazi dog soldiers, like werewolf soldiers, like they were trying everything. The Nazis were so deep in the occult.
They did.
Everything.
That
The
I
is
actually
Fuel
got an
true.
episode
Society.
coming up. I got an episode coming up on Hollow Earth and the Germans
Oh
in
yeah, and then
Antarctica.
their Antarctic base.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yep.
there's something going on in Antarctica for sure.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's hard. When you hear the
Well, it's the
accounts just like
perfect.
this, when you hear the accounts of soldiers,
Hmm. Or like people like just
Ah,
research like stationed up there, like you hear crazy shit. Or like you don't hear
Mhm.
anything at all, but like their body language is like, oh yeah, no, there's totally weird shit here, but I can't tell you.
yeah.
Stop gatekeeping. Let us
The,
know.
the best is when those guys are like on a podcast and like for 40 minutes they're dumping everything. And then you
Hmm.
get to a topic and they're all of a sudden like there's a wall and they try to
Yeah.
just play it off like I don't know.
Yeah. Demeanor just
Yeah.
changes and it's just like,
Okay.
nope, this did not happen. I was on vacation.
I was actually never there.
So back to this British guy for a second. So was the mortar?
Yeah.
So that was just totally unrelated, like just a random. Because the Germans that saw this woman and saw these soldiers, they had stopped firing. So this was just a random
Yeah.
war,
So,
like
so
mortar hits.
the way
Mhm.
I was picturing as I was researching this was like, okay, so you've got British soldiers thinly scattered across like one part of this town, and then there's like a big square in the middle, and then you've got your Germans heavily dug in on the other side of the town. So in my mind, you would have like your your infantry, your vanguard, your frontline soldiers like posted up in like buildings or like behind rubble and stuff like that. Then you would have your
Yeah.
mortars and artillery outside of the town because you want that reach.
Yeah. And
So
they're just
maybe
relaying.
yeah, it's pretty much you're calling to your FSO and being like, hey, here's the grid coordinates, blah, 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 splash in, splash out, shit like that. And so fire for effect. I can't remember how to call for fire. It's been years.
See?
But yeah.
The person firing would be aware of the coordinates and able to put their hologram on that spot.
Ooh.
That's why it was such a direct hit.
But yeah, to answer your question, Jen, like, yeah, so like all the frontline soldiers, they saw this weird, creepy ghost projection, trickster entity, what have you, and they all stopped, but probably nobody got on the radio to tell the artillery guys
Yeah.
behind them to be like, hey, there's somebody out in the open, civilian in the open. I mean, we've already committed
Right.
terrible war atrocities and
Yeah,
war
that's great.
crimes, so
Yeah.
like, why do we
Yeah,
care
yeah.
about this lady in blue?
That's
That's
so crazy.
so
Just think that-
weird.
I
Yeah.
know.
Beckoning to him to his death in the guise of his mother.
Well, and then talk about like the guys that saw it. Like, what are
Yeah.
they thinking now?
Like, yo, what?
the
He
other
just said that
British
was his
soldiers
mom,
were
Yeah.
just like,
and now I can't even ask him about it because he's literally vaporized.
what
Right.
about the dude that told him to look?
Yeah. I bet you
That
he's like,
guy's
I
now
will never
like,
tell
I
anybody to
fucking
look
killed him.
again. Yeah, I fucking killed Timmy.
Yeah. It would have been interesting to know if like it looked different to him at all.
Right? Like instead of like a
Yeah.
weathered, like spectral person, it just looked like his
Mhm.
mother, like on a regular Sunday afternoon.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like slightly different
Yeah,
form or
that's-
something.
Oh, it's so interesting.
Or like,
'Cause, yeah,
like yeah, like they're just trying to like they find they're like mining your weakness. So like maybe they were just hoping like an innocent woman soldiers would come out and save. Not even not the Germans, just
Oh,
whatever entity it is.
Conspiracy Reynolds for
here
half.
we go. Here we go.
No, like like we talk about like whatever that filter is that can like sense your what's going to help you or hurt you. Like it's just
Mhm.
filtering through things. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I'll be an innocent woman in blue to these two soldiers, and it didn't work. And then this guy looked at it, and it's like, and it was able to like shift real quick to what his mind would have been attracted to.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, I don't like
It's
it.
still
no matter what.
terrifying. Nah.
Yeah.
Definitely a stark, like definitely way different than the first story.
Yeah, but still put him like if the mortar hit that guy's bed, this thing like
Hit the
took him
guy.
out of that, like right out of the position, and that the other one put him right in the position, which
Mhm.
is super creepy no matter
Yeah.
what. Like
So
they're
you've
doing
got
the
one
same
entity
thing.
saving lives, and then you have another entity beckoning soldiers to their death.
The precision is what's kind of creepy too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Like,
It's not
exactly.
like
right
they were
on the
just in
exact spot.
area. Yeah.
Mm.
Ugh.
So this third and final story I have, and y'all know me by now. I listen to my gut and my feelings a lot. And, you know, if I feel somewhere where I'm like, I have no business being here, I'll boot scoot and boogie the fuck out of there.
Yeah, same.
So this is a story of that weird gut feeling telling you, like, I'm not going to survive. Or maybe it's something on the other side through the great filter. I called this one Digging Your Own Grave. So Corporal Albert Davy was a member of the 1st Australian Tunneling Company, and this was during World War One. So because they would do like tunneling and trench warfare and stuff like that. And so these guys were literally under no man's land, tunneling to the other side, to the other trenches.
With those little like flashlights or the curved flashlights. And
Yep.
Yeah,
And just pickaxing and
is
reinforcing.
terrifying.
And like
No.
these holes are only big enough for you to like
For your
shimmy
bu-
through.
yeah.
It's not like a big walkway.
Barely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
you're
like the
Yeah.
movie Descent.
living mold.
To give you
Ugh.
to give you like a sense, like if anybody out there, any of the listeners, I'm sure everybody has seen Peaky Blinders, you know, the Shelbys and stuff like that. They were tunnelers during
spoilers.
World War One. Oh, you haven't seen it?
Not done. Not even close. Just getting started.
Oh, well, they all have like PTSD from the war and stuff like that, but they were like tunnelers. So this is like what they would do. Like they would dig underground and shit like that in no man's land. Mr. Albert Davy, you know, he was part of the 1st Australian Tunneling Company, like I said. And this guy was obviously no stranger to death. Like nobody during these conflicts, like death was your best friend. Or, I mean, you didn't want it to be, but it tagged along like that annoying friend.
It was there.
These guys, these specially trained engineers, like you had to be like really trained to do this kind of job. They were tasked with some of the most wild and nightmarish undertakings during the war. And like I said, they would dig deep below the battlefield above, and the engineers would tunnel their way across no man's land. And for anybody that doesn't know what no man's land is, you know what it is. It's a dangerous region between opposing armies, particularly in World War One. And the term can also refer to an uninhabited or unclaimed area of land that may be disputed between two parties. So like, say Lee and I, there was a field between us and we couldn't decide whose land it was. So we just put up 2 barricades on each side and we were just like throwing stink bombs or like Roman candles at each other. Like, no, asshole, this is my land. No, asshole, this is my land. And then my dog goes underneath and tunnels into Lee's trench.
I don't want to be under any of that shit.
No,
Tanks
could you
driving
imagine?
over you and
No,
mortars
no.
exploding on top of
Yeah,
you.
no,
No.
think about that. This is part of the story too. Think about it. Like you're underground tunneling and there's heavy artillery just
Yeah.
bombarding everything above
War
you. So
is
like
happening.
every
Yeah.
vibration, you could get collapsed in your tunnel. So that's why I call this
Exactly.
digging your own grave.
Easily.
Yeah.
And to think, like, you know, the weather's not great in Europe.
No, it's
pretty
pretty it's
fucking
raining
rainy.
and muddy,
Just,
and you're just
yeah.
slogging through mud and clay and rock and ugh.
And I guess also you gotta think about like how creepy or anxiety like building it would be to like really not know where you were except for like
Yeah.
your maps and your like your
You got a
guide
compass
that's
and
like
map.
yeah 200 yards this way and you're just trying to clock 200 yards and
Mhm.
hoping you pop up in a safe spot.
Yeah, good luck
No.
with that.
I feel certain I would not.
Oh, could you imagine the
I'm too big.
claustrophobia?
I'm not the guy they're sending in for that. I'm good.
So yeah, these guys, they would place explosives beneath enemy trenches and strong points and attempt to blow holes in the enemy defenses. So like they had explosives under there with them, and you know, if
Yeah.
a certain shock hit the ground, boom, you're exploded under the ground, and everybody's like, "What the fuck just happened there?" You know,
Think about
everybody
that
above
from
ground.
the other side, the enemy side now. Like,
Yeah.
At
Mhm.
any moment, the ground you're standing on could just blow up.
Yeah, you're just standing there, and all of a sudden, you're just gone.
like no one, you haven't seen an enemy. You know the enemies are not in your bunker. So like, but
Yeah.
like all of a sudden, boom, from underground. Oh,
Yeah, because you're not expecting it underground. You're just like consistently looking at the skies and artillery shells and bombs and shit like that, and then all of a sudden you get Daffy Duck.
definitely one of those things. By the time you heard them digging, you're fucked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's too late.
So working in cramped and wildly claustrophobic spaces, but deep beneath volatile, unstable earth, you know, think of the artillery rounds and explosives going off above ground and thinking you could be literally buried alive at any second. With the risk of cave-ins and everything. You've got the risk of cave-ins, enemy detection ever present. It takes a literal special breed of soldier. Like, you had to have like nerves of fucking steel
To just derail you anymore, I just think of like the horrific things that could happen to you. So like, if I'm thinking about how to defend that, I'm just fucking flooding the tunnels.
Yeah, I was about to say, couldn't you, like, how would you feel if like somebody just dumped a bunch of gasoline in your tunnel and then just lit it on fire?
Threw a mustard gas grenade down a hole and just now you're, oh my god. There's probably so many people underground they never found.
I'm sure. I am sure.
I'm sorry.
Your mind is just racing.
Yeah, it's really going right now.
I'm glad. Like, I feel this was a good topic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, like I said, it took a special breed of soldier, and you definitely had to have like ironclad resolve and that icy coolness flowing through your veins. Like, think about Iceman from fucking Top Gun. So, by October 1918, Davy was a 2-year veteran of the war. He, distinguished himself on countless missions beneath enemy soil and lines. No matter the dangerous nature of their missions, Corporal Davy maintained that icy coolness and ironclad resolve, making him loved by his men and massively valued by his commanding officers. Like, this guy was the definition of cool, calm, and collected. Like, I would want this guy as a leader if I was still in. Like,
right.
Because you don't want somebody that's panicking and like showing weakness, because like I wouldn't want to follow somebody into battle like that. So he was massively valued by his commanding officers, so of course he kept getting like the dangerous, like hard up assignments and stuff like that. So during the end of the war, there was little need for the tunnelers anymore, and because the Allies had broken through the 100 Days offensive, they had finally succeeded in breaking the 4-year-long stalemate brought on by just general trench warfare of the times. So could you imagine that? Just like a 4-year struggle?
Oh, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
And it's not modern day. Communication's not instant.
Nope.
Yeah, we don't have sat nav and imaging. We don't have like FLIR, like none of the stuff.
Oh, and you can be for days at an end without hearing from command.
Oh yeah, especially if you're underground.
No way.
So yeah, with the fighting mostly defined by rapid advances of like, infantry ground units and stuff like that, the greater freedom of movement, so they didn't have to deal with the trenches anymore. It was all like open plain and field and stuff like that. The men of the 1st Australian Tunneling Company found themselves being reassigned essentially, and they were turned into infantrymen fighting shoulder to shoulder with standard infantry units. And during the final weeks of the war, Corporal Davy grew eerily sullen and withdrawn. So like, this guy had been like super cool and stoic and like, hey guys, like, we got to do this. We got to do the mission, the war, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, like,
what does he know?
That like, now all the dangerous shit is essentially over. Like, you're not in the trenches, you're not in the tunnels anymore. And now's the time for you to get all like sullen and withdrawn. Yeah. And like, it just wasn't his usual personality.
Yeah.
So when pressed on why he was so upset and withdrawn by his friends, Davy just couldn't explain what he was feeling. It's just that weird, like, I wish I could explain what I can feel to you, but like, there's no way that I could put it into words. Yeah, impending doom, essentially. The only thing that he could say to them was that it was overpowering and all-consuming him. Like, this is all he thought about day in, day night. Every time he took a breath was just this general unease. And I couldn't even imagine. You were so cool, calm, and collected, and now you're rattled.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something.
Yeah, he knew.
You saw something, or you got some kind of message or something.
Yeah. So, like countless soldiers before him, Davy was certain that his ticket was up. So, like, he just had this sense of, like what Jen said, impending doom. So, from post-war writings of the 1st Australian Tunneling Company's commanding officer, Captain Oliver Holmes Woodward, he wrote about a strange interaction with Corporal Davy on the eve of like a major infantry push. So it was like this big mission they had before, and Davy went up to his commanding officer and was like, hey, something's up. I need to talk to you about it. So the tunnelers would be moving forward with the infantry. They would be tasked with constructing a bridge over the Sambre-Ossé canal, or it's French, I'm butchering it. Some canal in France, the Sambre-Ossé, or however you say it. You can Google it.
Oui.
For tanks to cross. So they were building a bridge so tanks could cross and, finish out the good fight. So this is what Captain Woodward wrote in his personal diary about the whole weird interaction. I'm not going to do an Australian accent because I'm not going to. I had often heard cases of men having a premonition of impending doom and disaster, but I will tell you a case that came to my notice. Corporal Davy, one of my finest NCOs, an NCO is non-commissioned officer, which is an enlisted person, for people that don't know. One of my finest NCOs came to me and asked whether I would take care of his personal belongings and post them to his wife should anything happen to him. I spoke firmly to him and told him not to be foolish because all stood that chance and had to keep cool and collected. So basically, like, I'm not going to do that. You need to get your shit together like you have been this whole time and stop freaking the fuck out, essentially, is how I took that. But, you know, in a more political correct, like, hey, I'm your commanding officer. I'm going to get you somehow to get in your right mindset. And then Davy replied, Captain, nothing you can say will remove the conviction that I will be killed. Will you please do the favor that I asked of you? Mainly to ease his mind, I consented and took charge of his personal effects. I watched as Corporal Davy moved along with the rest of the men, disappearing into a sea of uniforms, moving as one. Before daylight broke the next morning, Corporal Davy made the supreme sacrifice. He was killed by a shell while we were laying out waiting for zero. And so waiting for zero is you're literally lying and waiting for the start of the mission. Like, everybody's on point, everybody's in their positions. You're just waiting for somebody to go over the radio, execute, and then you're going like a madman. So in temperament, Corporal Davy was the calm type. He was a soldier who was as fearless as any soldier can truly be in the face of war. He never failed at carrying out his duties in the most efficient manner and inspired the confidence of his men. There could be no suggestion of fear or panic causing him to act as he did when coming to me to ask this favor. And that's all I got. But yeah, it was like that.
Again,
he just had that impending doom.
So, you know, medical profession, you know, nurses, paramedics, things like that will tell you that if someone stops and says that, they take it extremely
Very
seriously. When someone says, I feel like I'm going to die. They say that the way that someone will say it, even if all their vitals are stable at the moment or whatever, they take that extremely seriously because that is something that they see often enough that they are absolutely right. The next minute they're crashing.
But it's crazy that like he just had this, and I can never explain it. It's just that sense of unease and dread that you're like, there's something about to happen.
I can't help but wonder if it's more than that, though. Like, I really wonder if like he like got an actual like this is it, like or had a dream or something that was like he saw it coming and just didn't know how.
Because I mean, I'm sure like soldiers all throughout like any conflict, they're like, oh fuck, man, like I don't feel right, but that's just like general nerves and being scared and stuff. But for you to be so sure that like you were super cool, calm, and collected, chiller than a cucumber the whole war, and then for you to get rattled like that at the end of the war when you're essentially done with all your wild tunneling and like very dangerous job.
Yeah. And now you're just, which is eerier. Like it's like eerier that he's calm and not like panicked about it.
He's accepted it. Like he just knows nothing I can do to change this. It's just going to happen.
Yeah. He's just resigned with his fate. He's like, you know what? I've weirdly made peace with it, but not.
Because again, it's just weird because if that's the case, you would think also like he could just say, hey, I'm not doing this. I don't want to die. But he like resigned himself to the fact, like he's like, something told him there's no way out of
it. This is how
and
you're
like
going
even
out.
like you can't really like decline a mission. Like
well, I mean you can, I would imagine he's respected enough that if he had some kind of like intel to be like, hey, I think we should probably start this mission like 20 minutes later so this fucking thing doesn't hit me, they might listen to him, you know?
Or
but the fact that he was just like,
did he know though the time and the way? He just knew that it was going to be over. He may not have known exactly what was going to happen and when to be able to even try, you know, to like Final Destination himself. Like, no log trucks. Thank you.
Well, what's crazy is like, I have other friends that have like done way more deployments than me and stuff like that. And one story that's always stuck with me is like a buddy of mine. He was like, yeah, we were in Afghanistan and we were going on patrol. We were going through this village, and all of a sudden, like, because he was like the second guy, so he wasn't point man, but he was the second guy. He's like, I just had this really intense feeling like something bad was about to happen, just wash over me like a tsunami. Like I damn near fell on the ground because I just got so terrified. And he ran it up the flagpole, and a couple of like his squad leader and platoon sergeant and stuff like that, they took him serious, and so they were way more extra cautious. And like right at the edge of the village, they got into a really bad firefight. So it was like he knew what was about to happen before it happened.
People get those premonitions, and that's why
Yeah.
that's why it's super eerie that he just was like, yeah,
I'm just gonna die.
I'm dying.
Yeah.
Oh man, I couldn't ever be at peace about that.
I don't think you have the choice. So many people, when they like get to that moment and you listen to people talk about NDEs and stuff, they're just like, it's complete acceptance. And
It
it's
is.
comfort,
True.
it's peace,
Well, you-
it's like all the things.
Well, you think about people that are given, a terminal diagnosis, we don't like to think about that, but they know exactly. And in some cases, they have sort of a time frame,
Mhm.
that their typical, progression would look like.
Mhm.
And so, there's
Isn't
nothing.
there like the 7 steps of dying or something like that, where it's like anger, acceptance, depression?
Yeah, it's kind of like
Something like- I
grieving
can't remember.
your own.
Probably,
It's,
yeah.
I think
Yeah,
it,
because you
it
have to
runs very
process the
parallel.
bad
Mhm.
news. Yeah. And
Yeah.
To bring up
maybe
our last episode and Bashar, so like his theory on that whole thing is that like it's natural to not want to die.
well, yeah, because
Like
living
Right.
is
any
dope.
living thing wants
Yeah.
to avoid death.
Right.
Yeah.
What's not natural is the fear of it. Like you shouldn't be scared of it. Like
Because it's a natural
you-
thing that occurs.
yeah, like
Right.
if something is going to fall on your head, you have the instinct to move out of the way. But if you didn't see that thing coming and you died, like you shouldn't be worried about what's going to happen after you die.
Yeah, because there's
so
no
detached.
concern of you.
Right.
Well, in so many of the things that make me crazy, you're not actually dead. You're just
No.
not in this physical body anymore.
Right.
And religions too. Like you're just not here, but you're still here.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I've like fully submitted to the theory of like, like everybody's like, oh, when you die or have an NDE, you see like a light tunnel and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I subscribe to the theory of like the tunnel is you being birthed in a new body. And so
Mm.
you're crying and freaking out as a baby because you've lost all your memories and you've essentially died and you'll never see those people again. So it's like a weird take on
Ooh.
reincarnation.
I could.
We have a reincarnation guest coming up soon.
Oh, is it?
Ooh, I would love
Good.
to ask them this question.
Yeah. Remember this. Yeah.
My baby tunnel theory.
Yeah. Well, I think her theory is that like almost like what you're saying though, it's like a trap and like you're just constantly doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I have my own theories, obviously, somewhat in that line, but I don't think you're immediately spit back out.
Yeah.
think
That.
so.
I
Yeah,
don't
no,
like.
I think you're like in the infinite for a while, or like
Mhm.
your soul gets
There's just no
washed or
time there.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think you have to do a lot of reflection on the life you just left. And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
then you have to like prepare your next life to not fuck up the things you fucked up or learn the lessons you didn't learn.
And then does karma play any fact into it?
Karma,
yeah.
you have karmic debt.
I mean, I have so many Buddha tattoos, so I mean, like, I definitely believe in karma.
Hey man,
I know.
He's my
There's so
fat
many
sky daddy.
factors. I'm just.
I'm gonna sound like a cult leader soon, but the raw.
So I say you already don't.
Yeah, right. It says the same thing though. They believe in the karmic, like your soul has karmic debt, and like that will determine how long you have to stay in that like limbo type place and like repair.
All right, I'm
your
gonna drink your
soul.
Kool-Aid and I'm gonna get this fucking
You're
book.
gonna read it. You're gonna have to read it. I'm not gonna stop until you
I'm
do.
gonna send a picture to Discord of
Stay
me just drinking
strong.
Kool-Aid while reading this.
I highly suggest the audiobook. I don't know if I could read it. Conversational, which is always weird for me to read.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely an audiobook kind of guy.
if you are listening and you have any paranormal stories, or if you yourself are a veteran, first off, thank you. Thank you, Josh.
Yeah,
But
very much.
if you have stories that are supernatural or paranormal within the military scope, we'd love to hear it. So please reach out.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna do another part of this because there's so many fucking
Yeah.
stories. Like we didn't even
Yeah.
get to Vietnam. We didn't talk about the
Yo,
Foo
no, yeah, there's
Fighters.
plenty more.
Oh, man.
Gettysburg, like, yeah,
Mhm.
Oh,
there's
Yeah.
I think
plenty
this
of
is
them.
gonna be like my thing for the next couple of topics is like different war stories.
Cool. Yeah,
Hey,
just bring it up. It'll
yeah.
be like a real thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have some really exciting things coming up with our edition of Jeremy, the editor. I've had some free time, so I got quite a few things ready
I
to
was
go.
gonna say, how many lines have you done?
I have at
I
least
know.
4 ready
God
to
dang.
go, like to pull
Oh
out and
my
just shoot. I
gosh.
can go.
Now I feel like a
Um,
piece of shit because I always do my research like 3 or 4 days before the episode.
No, well, I have. I mean, you're a parent of a young child. You're in the workforce, Jen. I babysit dogs, and my daughter goes to school. Like I can Google all day long.
I know.
I want your life.
Part of mine too is I have to like wait and drill down closer to, or else like I'll just be like reading my notes, like like it
Mhm.
all just leaves, and like I
I-
Oh, the
I
second
can't
that I
get
send
too
the
far
notes
ahead
to
of
the
myself.
Discord, it's like out.
I have to
Yeah, well,
remind
that's
myself to
yeah.
not
Okay,
keep
I feel
going
better.
back and revise and add and
Mhm.
change.
That's the
But-
other thing that gets me, yeah, because I would end up with like 5-hour part 3s episodes.
I
Mhm.
start making, and make revisions, and I go over it. I'll make it shorter. I'll make it longer. I'll take stuff out. I'll add stuff. But
Yeah,
my thing
I
is, I
wa-
get excited about something,
Mhm.
and then I'm like,
yeah.
yo, this is going to be the topic. Like
That's
I
how
have
I
to
was
do
with this one, and I was telling Lee, I was like, "Oh man, like I've got 3 stories. I hope it stretches till our time limit, but I have a
Oh,
4th
yeah.
one if I need to." But yeah,
Yeah,
no,
There's
we
so much to talk about
crushed
around
it.
them.
need to do way
Um,
more of those.
Yeah, I like this topic a lot.
I do
My
too.
next topic, if you're listening and you want to know and you want to get excited as me, is going to be sideshows and freak shows. So like
Oh, I'm
circus
gonna watch
I
sideshows.
American
love
Horror Story
those.
sideshow
I
now.
love those.
Yeah. So I'm going to cover a little bit of the darker history of that. I think it's
Yeah.
kind of fun and cool.
If you don't include the
It is.
bearded lady, I'm gonna be very upset.
She's
Yeah.
actually a pivotal person in their
Ah.
like development of sideshows and performers' rights. So she's actually very important.
Yep.
Like
was.
4 Halloweens ago, I dressed as the bearded lady. I put a dress on, makeup, everything. It was great.
See
Nice.
this?
Bartended
Like,
the night
awesome.
away.
I don't need any
I think-
pictures. I can visualize.
I think you should come to the episode dressed as the bearded lady.
I think
Oh.
you should.
Done.
Oh, that would be great. All right, man. Again, if anyone is listening and has any theories on the stories that we shared today, please put it in the comments or email us. Let us know. Any form of social is okay. We have stuff coming up we're excited about, like you just heard. Other than that, subscribe. We appreciate it. And definitely rate us on the audio podcast forms.
Yes.
Also, merch.
Yes. I'm not wearing
Get
any merch
that.
today, but Lee is.
I am.
Yeah.
I took over the merch spot. It's comfy. It
I
is.
can't wait.
I'm not even just selling it. Like it's a nice t-shirt.
It is a nice t-shirt. Like I love my tank top because we all know I don't love sleeves. So
Right.
Yeah.
it's nice, like Hanley. I think it's called Hanley. I don't know what material it is. I'm not a clothes connoisseur.
Who knows? Who knows?
But yeah, they're comfy.
Anyway.
They're reasonably priced. Find our merch store on all of our links in our link tree on Instagram.
Linktree. Yep. Other than that, anything else, guys?
Nah,
All right.
it's interested being back in my roots in the kitchen and not
Yeah.
my studio.
All right. You know what? You did such a good job sharing your stories. I didn't even think about it once.
Nope.
Score.
All right, strangers. We'll talk to you guys on the next one.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Keep it strange.
Thank you for listening. If you would like to join us as a guest, suggest a topic, or have a story you want us to share, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at SSOSpodcast@gmail.com. For more behind-the-scenes updates and exclusive insights about SSOS, make sure to follow us on social media. And don't miss out on the fun. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Again, thank you for listening to the Secret Society of Strangers podcast. This show is an independent production, researched and crafted by our passionate team. But we couldn't do it without all of you. We truly appreciate your support. Embrace the unknown, for not all secrets are meant to be kept. Farewell, strangers.